Hey guys, what's up? Have you ever had one of those moments where you do something that looks straight up wrong, and yet somehow it helps you win the game? Mobile Legends has these weird moments where what looks like a mistake actually works in your favor. That's what today's video is all about. 7 mistakes that low-key help you win more games, even though they seem dumb on the surface. Number 1. Picking off meta heroes in Ranked. So here's the thing, most players in Ranked just go with whatever's meta. The strongest heroes of the patch, the ones that the pros use, or the ones that top YouTubers say are OP. But when you go into Ranked and lock in an off-meta pick, people instantly doubt you. They ping, they trash talk, they expect you to fail, but what they don't realize is, if you've mastered that hero, you've already won half the battle. Most people don't know how to fight an off-meta pick because they don't see it often. They don't know how far your damage reaches, what your cooldown timings are, or how to punish your weaknesses. That lack of experience gives you freedom. You can bait people who think they're safe. You can catch them by surprise with a combo they didn't expect, and because they underestimate you, they get careless. That's when you strike. You turn a bad pick into a carry performance. Not because your hero is broken, but because they didn't respect you. That's the hidden power of going off meta. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability in solo queue is a weapon. Number 2, going solo. Even when you shouldn't, everyone says stick with the team. And yeah, in a perfect world where teammates coordinate and rotate properly, that makes sense. But in reality, especially in solo queue, following the team can sometimes just mean you follow them into a bad fight or get dragged into chaos. That's why sometimes going solo, even when it seems like a mistake, ends up saving the match. Think about this, your team keeps forcing mid, and you already know they're not gonna win the next team fight. Instead of following blindly, you quietly head to top lane, clear the wave, and push. Enemy team commits to wiping your squad mid, but while they're doing that, you're getting gold, XP, and maybe even a turret. Suddenly they have to back, they lose momentum. That solo push might feel selfish to them, but it creates pressure that forces the enemy to make a choice. They either defend you or continue the fight. That's power. Sometimes the best way to help your team is not being with them. It's being in the right spot at the right time to punish the enemy's overcommitment. Going solo isn't about ego, it's about reading the situation, knowing when to break from the pack, and trusting yourself to make space when no one else can. That mistake becomes a clutch macro play if you pull it off right. Number 3, diving too deep and somehow surviving. There's nothing more heart-pounding than diving into a fight, thinking, ah shoot, I went too far, and then somehow surviving by a sliver of health. On paper, it's a bad play. You dove under turret, you overextended, maybe you burned your flicker or ult just to get one kill. But here's where the magic happens. If your dive causes chaos, it might be worth it even if you die. Why? Because distraction is powerful. When you dive deep, enemy players often panic. They turn their focus to you, they blow ults, use spells, reposition, all to deal with your reckless move. And while they're doing that, your team is closing in. Maybe your marksman is free hitting, maybe your mage lands a full combo on their distracted backline. Your bad dive just opened a window for the team to turn the fight. It's not always about surviving, it's about what your dive creates. And if you do manage to survive, that's even better. You become this annoying, slippery threat that the enemy constantly worries about. You've now planted that thought in their head. Don't chase him too deep. Don't let him bait us. That mental hesitation you caused, that's the kind of psychological edge that wins games. So yeah, it looks like a mistake on the scoreboard, but in the flow of the game, it can be the start of a comeback. Number 4, dying early in the game. No one wants to die in the first 2 minutes. It feels bad, and sometimes your team immediately starts blaming you. But believe it or not, dying early is one of those mistakes that can actually help if you treat it right. The key is learning from it immediately, not tilting. Dying early forces you to adapt. It's like the game slaps you in the face and says, yo, pay attention. Maybe you underestimated the enemy laner. Maybe you didn't ward properly. Maybe you got baited. Cool, lesson learned. Now, instead of repeating it, you play smarter. You start hugging the turret more, waiting for backup, or freezing the lane. You recover, and that early death, that moment of frustration, ends up sharpening your decision making. Also, early deaths have short timers. You're back on the map fast. If the enemy gets greedy after killing you, sometimes you can TP back, turn the fight, and shut them down with a little help, or you just quietly farm back while they waste time. What looks like a big throw can actually give you perspective. It teaches you how the enemy thinks, and if you can stay calm, that early mistake becomes the experience boost that makes you smarter for the next 10 minutes. Number 5, buying the wrong items. People love following build guides, that's fine, but the truth is, items in Mobile Legends aren't fixed, they're tools, and sometimes what looks like the wrong tool for the job is actually the perfect one. It just depends on the situation. Let's say you're a tank and you rush blade armor early instead of the usual dominance ice. People might say that's inefficient, but if the enemy has a fed marksman like Bruno or Wanwan, blade armor early makes a huge difference. Suddenly their damage bounces back at them and forces them to reposition. Or maybe you're an EXP laner, and instead of going for full damage, you grab an anti-heal item early because you're laning against an Esmeralda. Building wrong items becomes a winning play when it's based on what the game needs, not what people expect. It's not about looking flashy on the leaderboard, it's about countering threats and helping your team breathe. Sometimes the most unconventional builds are the reason you win. Number 6, not joeing every fight. You'll hear this in almost every team game. Stick together, don't split, help in fights. And yeah, joining fights is important when they make sense, but in ranked, not every fight is a smart one. Sometimes backing off, skipping a fight, or just clearing lanes instead of diving into the chaos actually saves the game. If your team engages 4v5 into the jungle with no vision, and you know it's a suicide mission, you staying in lane and pushing waves might look selfish, but it stops the snowball. The enemy doesn't get a full team wipe, you don't give them more gold or momentum, and you're there to defend mid or stop a Lord push when they overextend. That's not a mistake, that's map awareness, that's macro gameplay. It's what separates a good player from a reckless one. Number 7, trusting randoms in solo queue. Let's be real, trusting teammates in solo queue sounds like a rookie move. People throw, tilt, troll, and flame. But here's the truth. If you never trust them, if you always assume they'll mess up, you end up playing scared. You don't follow up, you don't commit, and you miss opportunities. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just say, screw it, I'm all in with you, even if it feels risky, because when you show trust, even in randoms, people respond, they play better, they don't feel judged, the vibe shifts. Now, instead of everyone playing for themselves, people start playing as a team. One clean wipe later, and you've got Lord, map control, and suddenly, you're winning. Trusting your teammates might seem like the biggest mistake in solo rank, but weirdly enough, if you've ever had a moment where a mistake turned into a game-winning move, tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Hit that like button if this helped you out, and subscribe for more. Keep playing smart, keep trusting your instincts, and I'll see you in the next one.